parents, summer has begun, and parents everywhere, if you're like me, have mixed emotions about summer vacation. It's a lot of time that you may not know how to fill. And if your kids aren't in camps, sports, or something else to entertain them, well, you may inevitably hear the phrase, I'm bored. Mom, I'm bored. Mic drop. And then they just look at you like you're supposed to, put on clown makeup and entertain them. Well, now what? So honestly, I would give anything to be bored at times at this point in my life. But
True.
the good news is we have Kristin Schmoke here to help us navigate the still waters of boredom. So if you can imagine a world where parenting can be made easier, your questions answered, and harmony in your home is commonplace, Parenting with Heart will give you useful parenting advice for early, middle, and teen development. So, hi parents, I'm Monica, one of two Monicas in a microphone, and I'm here introducing the latest episode of Parenting with Heart featuring Kristin Schmoke, parent coach. And she has her master's in elementary education. She's a certified parent coach and a mom of four. So basically, we want to be your one-stop shop for nuggets of information that can make your journey as a parent easier. And Kristin and I were doing a little bit of catching up last week talking about this episode, and she revealed some very interesting things to me when it comes to the phrase, I'm bored, which is today's topic. How do you handle boredom when your kids bring it up? Kristin, do you remember being bored as a kid? Let's just start there.
You know, I'm sure I was, but I spent a lot of time outside as a kid. And so I kind of self-entertained a lot.
Okay.
Because I was a child of the 80s, right? So we went outside at 9 o'clock in the morning and didn't really come back until 5 o'clock in the afternoon, except for to get snacks.
Right.
and ask, I'm sure some inevitable question like, Mom, where's the blah, blah, blah. But we were out playing.
Or can I go to so-and-so's house, like an extra block away?
Yep, all of that. And I kind of lived on a bubble, so to speak, where our neighborhood was on top of a hill. And so we weren't going anywhere because you weren't going off the hill.
Okay.
But he was there.
Well, I don't particularly remember being bored. I mean, I'm sure there were instances where it's like, okay, I've already played outside. Maybe I've watched a little TV. No, I don't want to go outside again. What do I do? But as my friend Katie reminded me, or she gave me a compliment the other day, she's like, Monica, you're like the queen of learning new hobbies. I mean, I'm pretty sure I figured out a way to entertain myself because that's what I do now. I'm like, oh, I don't know what to do with myself. I'm going to learn how to acrylic paint, or I'm going to learn how to propagate roses or something.
Same. Yep.
Yeah, so
I have lots of hobbies.
Exactly.
I don't get to do many of them anymore, but I have lots of interests.
Exactly. And, learning how to do something new is fun. It's creative. It's an experience. And, maybe you end up liking the hobby and keeping it forever. And maybe it's just like, oh, I never want to acrylic paint again because it's a mess.
Well, you never know really where in life you're going to need that skill again. It's amazing. True. You're like, oh yeah, I can totally do that.
Well, and nowadays with, the advent of the internet, which wasn't around when we were younger, I mean, you could literally learn how to do anything.
True. So true.
Anything. Well, so when we were kids, we don't really remember that far back, but you and I are pretty sure that we were bored maybe occasionally.
For sure.
And, I feel like today's kids are bored more often.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would say the difference probably between your childhood and mine versus our kids' childhood is that kids are typically pretty scheduled these days. They've got school all day, and then after school, they've got sporting events or some kind of like arts and crafts or music or something else where they're going to all these classes. And then same for the weekend. So then when it comes to the summer, they've been scheduled for 10 months out of the year.
Right.
They don't have that, I don't want to say they don't have that ability, but they haven't practiced the ability to come up with their own entertainment
schedule
so
and entertainment. Yeah, that makes sense. There is a lot of scheduling. Some people would even go so far as saying a lot of kids are overscheduled. There are too many activities. So when it comes time to having downtime, if you are not entertaining them, or they are not being entertained by friends or a device or a screen of some sort, the instant comment is "I'm bored." And this is probably my favorite story from our trip to New Orleans. I'm sitting out at the French market with Sienna. I helped her eat this giant chocolate crepe because it was making a mess. And I'm like, okay, let me just help you. So I'm not eating my lunch. I'm helping her eat her lunch. She finishes. I start eating my lunch. Not 2 minutes went by. And she looks at me. She's like, oh, I'm so bored. Like, wait, okay. A, you're 7. B, you're in a totally different city at an outdoor market. And C, I just helped you eat your lunch. So now, I mean, I gave her 3 options. You can watch me eat, you can people watch, or you can like play with your brother who's right there across from you.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I was like,
Yeah.
you're in a totally different city. How are you bored?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you think about it, we have devices in our hands all the time, right? And working at a school, I see, and I do car lines, so I see just how many kids are watching a device in the car on the way to
For
school.
real?
Oh yeah, I mean, I would say probably every other car, if not more. The kids they either have an iPad or their parents' phone in the car, or they're watching a movie, right, in the back of the seat in front of them. And so they don't really have that. So their brain is used to kind of fast pace, right? Stimulation all the time. And then when you ask them to slow down and just people watch or just look around you and notice things, it actually feels super uncomfortable. They don't really know what to do with that because they don't practice being slow. They practice being fast and go, go, go all the time. And
Whoa.
so slow feels different, feels boring, feels weird, feels uncomfortable to some of these children. And so you see that in schools because they need to be entertained all the time. We need to be going. And even in school, we're flipping topics quickly. All right, here, do your reading. Now we're done. Now it's time to do our writing.
Yeah.
Now we're line up. We got to go to Spanish. All right, back up, back in. We're doing math. Okay, and it's real quick and a lot of interruptions.
Okay.
You have to sit and be quiet or sit and observe something. You're being still, and I just don't know that children know how to be still, and then that steals from them the ability to be bored.
Oh, fascinating. Well, when we came up with this topic, I decided to post on my Facebook the question, how do you respond to boredom? If you hear the phrase, I'm bored from your child, what do you do?
Yeah.
And one of the things I liked about the responses is that we had responses from, people our age, parents our age, who have a range of kids, or kids in a range of ages. But then I also had the parents of some of our friends respond with what they used to say. So we're talking a totally different generation, totally different parenting styles. So I'm going to find some of these responses, and oh my gosh, 25 responses. Whoa, that's more than I thought. So let's go through some of these responses, and you could give a thumbs up or a thumbs down, or maybe tweak it and how it could be better. Right?
Okay, sure.
All right. So Facebook friend Liana, she says, I tell my kids to hold on real quick while I run and get my clown makeup so I can entertain them. A little bit of sarcasm, and we've talked about sarcasm. Yeah. Her kids are a little bit older, so yeah.
A little bit of sarcasm for sure. But what does that teach them?
Good point.
So my question always kind of comes back to, are you going to get this question again? Yes, because you haven't taught them anything. by saying to them, well, you have to go in, I'm not here to entertain you, go entertain yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I realize you and I we didn't have to be taught how to be,
Yeah.
right? We also didn't have devices. We didn't have overscheduling. Some of these kids need to be taught a little bit how to be bored. And what do we do? What are the steps we do when we're bored? Well, we start to think about things we could do, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Maybe you come up with a bucket list with your kids and be like, all right, here's some things that we talked about when you're bored, you might want to try to do. What are some hobbies that you would like to, what's something you would like to try? Let's add it to the list. Maybe that might be feeling like it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that that's a catch-all and that that's gonna solve it every time, but it's we're trying to get the ball rolling, right? We're not trying to make them never bored, because that also defeats the purpose.
Yeah, true. So I feel like several of these comments, like the "hi bored, I'm mom," or "me too," like I'm bored too. Those go into it doesn't teach the kid how to be bored and how to deal with the boredom and just be okay with the boredom or get over it. Like, encouraging them to find something to do. So another friend of mine,
like, why do you have to find something to do? Why can't you just
be still?
Literally, I mean, wasn't it Newton who literally sat under a tree?
Yeah.
and discovered Newton's law because he was just sitting. I mean, you don't have to be doing anything.
Sure. Okay. I don't think I quite. Yeah, I guess you don't have. I am always doing something. It's very rare. So it's hard for me to imagine just sitting. And I remember there was a time in my life where I had more time to just sit.
Yes.
And, like be at a cafe and be okay, not writing in a journal, not reading anything, just sitting with myself. And that's it.
And enjoying your coffee.
Yeah.
Like, what would that feel like? How amazing.
Right now, I would give anything to be bored enjoying coffee right now.
Right? Let's do it.
Yeah.
Start a movement.
So other comments, go outside and play. My friend Grassa says that's a you problem and only you have the power to find a way to occupy yourself. Which, goes along with, you can either sit and learn to be still or you can find a way around it. Quite a few of the comments involved, you never wanted to say that in my house growing up because the answer was, I have something for you to clean.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah. Depending on, if we're talking early, middle, and teenage years, okay, I'm not going to have my 5-year-old clean anything because it's going to be a bigger mess for me to clean up.
Fair point.
Although he's good at vacuuming, so maybe next time he says I'm bored, I'll say, hey.
I mean, I'm not, I'm not against like that, but obviously not very many kids are going to choose cleaning, and it kind of makes cleaning as a
punishment,
a negative, or you're putting this negative connotation around cleaning. And I mean, I wish I enjoyed cleaning, but I don't know that is encouraging positive cleaning, because then you're like, oh, the only time I have to clean is when I'm bored.
Right. And I never want to be bored and I'm never going to clean.
Right. And then those can't coexist, right?
No,
eventually
they can't.
Have to clean.
One of my favorite comments comes from my friend Nicole, and she says that in her house, and she's also she was an elementary school counselor for quite a few years, so lots of experience with kids, and she has a jar of popsicle sticks in her house, and there's an activity written on it, and she says, if she hears the "I'm bored," she says, go pick out a board stick, and if that doesn't work,
I love that.
She said, when that doesn't work, I tell them only boring people are bored. That earns me some top-notch eye rolls.
Yes, but we're not trying to shame them into doing anything, and it's okay to be bored. It's normal to be bored, and I like to kind of create that like normalcy. Like this is a normal human emotion. People get bored. This is okay. But when we get bored, these are the things we can do, right? We can get curious about something. We can create something. We can, I mean, because that's really the opportunity for our brain to slow down. And that's where ingenuity comes from, and creativity, and all of these opportunities that I think sometimes our kids miss out in the normal school year because of the busyness of it.
Okay.
They don't get that opportunity to slow down and to really look and notice things, and get like curious, like
Well, and so the last comment,
why does this happen,
yeah,
or how do I grow plants, or how do like,
let me just watch this little thing for a while.
do worms have families? I mean, just you never know like
I never thought of that
what
before.
they're going to come up with.
So the last comment is from my friend Christina, who was also early childhood educator. And she said her response is, you know what comes after boredom? Creativity.
Absolutely,
So
100%. 100%. Because we want them to get there. Now, with that, sometimes get some creativity that maybe is less than desirable.
I can only imagine.
Then you're like, oh, wait a minute, I didn't mean to climb on the roof. I meant
Yeah.
get creative.
No,
Let's
don't
not
get the ladder out. Do not try to stand
right.
on top of the post outside. That's 12
Please
feet tall.
don't paint the fence. Like this is like there's got to be some guidelines, right?
Sure.
And so I think if you have some opportunities to give your kids some supplies, whether that looks like, I mean, and books are always a great option. Arts and crafts, always a great option.
Mm-hmm.
Neighborhood friends, always a great option. And if you're in a position where you're like, hey, we've been home for 3 days, and I get it. You're tired
Yeah.
of playing with your siblings. Can we go to the park? Can we invite a friend over? Like, can we look for other options together? I'm big on problem solving, right? Let's look for a solution.
Yeah.
You are bored. I'll sit down here with you and we can talk about some ideas, but I can't solve that problem for you. But we
Mm-hmm.
can collaborate some ideas. We can talk about them. But in the end, you're going to have to pick what you want to do, because maybe you're a stay-at-home mom, maybe you're working, maybe you're got to make dinner, whatever. My job is not to entertain you. You're
Mm-hmm.
right. But I can play with you for some components of the day, but I am not going to entertain you for the whole day.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, and I wouldn't say that to the child, but
Sure.
I would be like, you know what? Grown-ups have grown-up things that they still have to do, and kids have kid things to do. Kid things to do are to go play.
Yeah.
That's your work. Your work is to go play. I got some other things I have to do.
So
Maybe
maybe as a way to implement that, the popsicle sticks, I love that. I loved your idea about, making a bucket list.
Yep.
Like, hey, if you decide you're bored, let's think of 3 or 4 things that you could do if you want. Otherwise, I'm going to tell them to go talk to the plants. My plants need some love. That's what I'm going to tell my kids. If you're bored, go talk to my plants.
They do.
Go read to them, like you suggested before.
Yeah, go read to the plants. Yeah, go to the library. I in the summer I like to take my kids once a week to the library. We get new books, and they love it. Even just recently, they're preteens and young teens right now, and they kind of gave me the eye roll, like, really, Mom, we're going to the library. I'm like, you're not too big for the library. Nobody is too big for the library. They picked up books and they both sat and read for like 2 hours afterwards, and I was like, score, this is great.
Yeah.
And you know what? It offers opportunity for other things. If you want, take your kids to the craft store and have them each pick out a couple different things they could do to add to their craft.
Mm-hmm.
Think of some things that might be fun for sensory play, kind of thing, like bubbles or just water, or even an ice bucket. Kids love ice. It's
weird. I know. It's so funny. Like my kids are like, I want ice. Like, okay.
But you don't have to be the facilitator of all of it. You don't have to be the creator of all of it. And I think there's a fine line in parenting now, and this is probably a topic for another day, where I feel like this generation of parents feels like they have to play with their child time. And we've gone from, I don't know, my parents in the 80s didn't hardly play with, I mean, they played with us, but not really. Not like,
yeah, no, there was no I mean, maybe,
We would
maybe,
play family games,
yeah.
but for the most part, it was not. Um, and I feel like a lot of young parents now feel like they have to play a lot with their children, to quote unquote entertain them.
Right.
And we want to foster some autonomy. We want to foster a little bit of uh, industriousness, and we want
Hmm.
to foster some creativity. So
I like all of those things because they're life skills that you need to know.
yeah, and there's no greater place than getting them out in nature. So I think your friend's right when she's like, go outside. I mean, there's all sorts of fun things.
Yeah, that's awesome. And if you need more tips for getting your kids outside, we have an episode on that. Getting your kids outside and, how to encourage that and foster that for early, middle, and teens. Scavenger hunt. Oh, maybe
Yes,
that's what I'll do. I'll put together a card and do like write scavenger hunt things. They can go inside
awesome.
and outside and do it all.
You know what the best scavenger hunt is? Is a
What?
rainbow scavenger hunt,
Love
because
that.
then you just give them the color and then they have to find something that goes with the color. And your kids are
Love
little enough.
it. Yeah, they are. They are. Well, Kristin, anything you'd like to add about boredom? Because I am getting prepared not to be bored at all this summer. I will be very busy.
Yes, there's one more thing that I think is important to note. I think a lot of parents feel really triggered, not so much by the words "I am bored," but more about how the way your kids say it to you.
Oh my gosh, that was totally me in New Orleans. It was so
It,
dramatic.
it
It was,
it's more about the way it's
I'm
delivered.
bored. I mean, just like, I'm like, what? Who are you right now?
Yeah. So just recognize that
Yeah.
that part of that is the dramatic flair or the delivery of the "I'm bored" that is going to be more triggering to you than the actual "I'm bored."
I think that's super important. And in my case, very, very accurate. Well, friends, if you'd like more Parenting with Heart, you can find Parenting with Heart on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeart. You can also find Kristin Schmoke, parent coach at Kristin Schmoke Parenting, right?
Yeah,
Did I get that right? Okay.
you got it right.
KristinSchmokeParenting.com. And
Oh,
oh, sorry. Nope, I'll cut
just
that out.
Kristin Schmoke Parenting on Instagram.
Okay. You can find
I couldn't
Kristin.
change my website
That's
yet.
okay. You can find Kristin on Instagram at Kristin Schmoke Parenting. And we hope to see you back here next week when we launch another. Hold on. And we hope to see you next time when we launch another topic. All right. Bye. And
Infamous
and,
Zoom wait.
and we're on video because we love video.